Sirhan Bishara Sirhan is a Palestinian of Jordanian citizenship who was convicted of the 1968 assassination of United States Senator Robert F. Kennedy. He is currently serving a life sentence at the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego County, California. Sirhan was born in British-ruled Jerusalem and is a strong opponent of Israel. In 1989, he told David Frost, "My only connection with Robert Kennedy was his sole support of Israel and his deliberate attempt to send those 50 bombers to Israel to obviously do harm to the Palestinians." Some scholars believe that the assassination was the first major incident of political violence in the United States stemming from the Arab-Israeli conflict in the Middle East. Early life: Sirhan was born into a Palestinian Christian family in Jerusalem, Mandatory Palestine. When he was 12 years old, his family emigrated, moving briefly to New York and then to California. In Altadena, he attended Elliott Junior High School, followed by John Muir High School and Pasadena City College, both in Pasadena. Sirhan's father, Bishara, was characterized as a stern man who often beat his sons harshly. Shortly after the family's move to California, Bishara returned alone to the Middle East. Sirhan never became an American citizen, retaining instead his Jordanian citizenship. As an adult, Sirhan changed church denominations several times, joining Baptist and Seventh-day Adventist churches. Then in 1966, he joined the occult organization Ancient Mystical Order of the Rose Cross, commonly known as Rosicrucians. The significance of the latter would surface later, when some psychiatrists who examined him allegedly found he appeared to have been hypnotized. Sirhan was employed as a stable boy in 1965 at the Santa Anita racetrack in Arcadia, California. Robert F. Kennedy assassination. On June 5, 1968, Sirhan fired a .22 caliber Iver Johnson cadet revolver at Senator Robert Kennedy and the crowd surrounding him in the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles shortly after Kennedy had finished addressing supporters in the hotel's main ballroom. George Plimpton, Rosie Grier, author Pete Hamill, and 1960 Olympic gold medalist Rafa Johnson were among several men who subdued and disarmed Sirhan after a lengthy struggle. Kennedy was shot 3 times, once in the head and twice in the back, with a 4th bullet passing through his jacket, and died nearly 26 hours later. 5 other people at the party were also shot, but all 5 recovered: Paul Schrade, an official with the United Automobile Workers Union; William Weisel, an ABC TV unit manager; Ira Goldstein, a reporter with the Continental News Service; Elizabeth Evans, a friend of Pierre Salinger, one of Kennedy's campaign aides; and Erwin Stroll, a teenaged Kennedy volunteer. Prosecution, despite Sirhan's admission of guilt, recorded in a confession made while in police custody on June 9, a lengthy trial followed. The court judge did not accept his confession and denied his request to withdraw his not guilty plea so that he could plead guilty. Years later, Sirhan recanted his confession, claiming not to remember making it. On February 10, 1969, Sirhan's lawyers made a motion in chambers to enter a plea of guilty to first-degree murder in exchange for life imprisonment. Sirhan announced to the court judge, Herbert V. Walker, that he wanted to withdraw his original plea of not guilty in order to plead guilty as charged on all counts. He also asked that his counsel dissociate themselves from this case completely. When the judge asked him what he wanted to do about sentencing, Sirhan replied, "I will ask to be executed." Judge Walker denied the motion and stated, "This court will not accept the plea." The judge also denied Sirhan's request for his counsel to withdraw. When his counsel entered another motion to withdraw from the case of their own volition, Walker denied this motion as well. Judge Walker subsequently ordered that the record pertaining to the motion be sealed. The trial proceeded, and opening statements began on February 12. The lead prosecutor in the Sirhan case was Lynn Buck Compton, a World War II veteran who later became Justice of the California Court of Appeal. The prosecution's opening statement, delivered by David Fitz, was replete with examples of Sirhan's deliberate preparations to kill Kennedy. The prosecution was able to show that just 2 nights before the attack, on June 3, Sirhan was seen at the Ambassador Hotel, apparently attempting to learn the building's layout. Evidence proved that he visited a gun range on June 4. Further testimony by Alvin Clark, Sirhan's garbage collector, who claimed that Sirhan had told him a month before the attack of his intention to shoot Kennedy, seemed especially damning. Sirhan's defense counsel, which included attorney Grant Cooper, had hoped to demonstrate that the killing had been an impulsive act of a man with a mental deficiency, but when Judge Walker admitted into evidence pages from 3 of the journal notebooks that Sirhan had kept, it was clear that the murder was not only premeditated, but also quite calculating and willful. On March 3, 1969, in the Los Angeles courtroom, Cooper asked Sirhan directly if he had indeed shot Senator Kennedy. Sirhan replied immediately, "Yes, sir," but then stated that he did not bear any ill will towards Kennedy. Sirhan also testified that he had killed Kennedy with 20 years of malice aforethought. He explained in an interview with David Frost in 1989 that this referred to the time since the creation of the State of Israel. He has maintained since then that he has no memory of the crime, nor of making that statement in open court. During Sirhan's testimony, Cooper asked him to explain his reasons for the attack on Kennedy. Sirhan launched into a vicious diatribe about the Middle East conflict between Arab and Jew. Defense counsel Emil Zola Berman, who was Jewish, was upset by Sirhan's statements and expressed his intentions to resign from the defense team. Berman was eventually talked out of resigning by Cooper and stayed until the end of the trial. During the trial, the defense primarily based their case on the expert testimony of Bernard L. Diamond, M.D., a professor of law and psychiatry at University of California, Berkeley, who testified that Sirhan was suffering from diminished capacity at the time of the murder. Sirhan's behavior throughout the trial was indeed bizarre, and at one point, he became outraged during testimony about his childhood. Sirhan was convicted on April 17, 1969, and was sentenced 6 days later to death in the gas chamber. 3 years later, his sentence was commuted to life in prison, owing to the California Supreme Court's decision in People v. Anderson, the People of the State of California v. Robert Page Anderson, 493 pages 2D 880, 6 colours 3D 628, which ruled capital punishment a violation of the California Constitution's prohibition of cruel or unusual punishment. The California Supreme Court declared in the Anderson case that its decision was retroactive, thereby invalidating all prior death sentences imposed in California. Appeals. Sirhan's lawyer Lawrence Teeter later argued that Grant Cooper was compromised by a conflict of interest and was, as a consequence, grossly negligent in defense of his client. The defense moved for a new trial amid claims of setups, police bungles, hypnotism, brainwashing, blackmail and government conspiracies. On June 5, 2003, coincidentally the 35th anniversary of Kennedy's assassination, Lawrence Teeter petitioned a federal court in Los Angeles to move the case to Fresno. He argued Sirhan could not get a fair hearing in Los Angeles, where a man who helped prosecute Sirhan is now a federal judge. U.S. District Judge William Matthew Byrne, Jr. in Los Angeles was a deputy U.S. attorney during Sirhan's trial, and part of the prosecutorial team. Teeter, who had been trying since 1994 to have state and federal courts overturn the conviction, argued that his client was hypnotized and framed, possibly by a government conspiracy. He was granted a June 30 hearing. During the hearing, Teeter referred to testimony from the original trial transcripts regarding a prosecution eyewitness to the attack, author George Plimpton, in which he said that Sirhan looked enormously composed. He seemed purged. This statement coincided with the defense's argument that Sirhan had shot Kennedy while in some kind of hypnotic trance. The motion was denied. Teeter died in 2005, and Sirhan declined other counsel to replace him. On November 26, 2011, Sirhan's defense teams filed new court papers for a new trial, saying that expert analysis of recently uncovered evidence shows 2 guns were fired in the assassination and that Sirhan's revolver was not the gun that shot Kennedy, and he should be freed from prison or granted a new trial based on formidable evidence, asserting his innocence and horrendous violations of his rights. Motives. A motive cited for his actions is the Middle East conflict. After his arrest, Sirhan said, "I can explain it. I did it for my country." Sirhan believed he was deliberately betrayed by Kennedy's support for Israel in the June 1967 Six-Day War, which had begun exactly 1 year to the day before the assassination. During a search of Sirhan's apartment after his arrest, a spiral-bound notebook was found containing a diary entry which demonstrated that his anger had gradually fixated on Robert Kennedy, who had promised to send 50 fighter jets to Israel if he were elected president. Sirhan's journal entry of May 18, 1968, read, "My determination to eliminate RFK is becoming the more and more of an unshakable obsession. Kennedy must die before June 5. They found other notebooks and diary entries which contained his growing rage at Zionists, particularly at Kennedy. His journals also contained many nonsensical scribbles, which were thought to be his version of free writing. The next day, on June 6, the Los Angeles Times printed an article, which discussed Sirhan's motive for the assassination, confirmed by the memos Sirhan wrote to himself. Jerry Cohen, who authored the article, stated, "When the Jordanian nationalist, Sirhan Bishara Sirhan, allegedly shot Kennedy, ostensibly because of the senator's advocacy of U.S. support for Israel, the crime with which he was charged was in essence another manifestation of the centuries-old hatred between Arab and Jew." M.T. Meady, then Secretary-General of the Action Committee on American-Arab Relations, believed that Sirhan had acted in justifiable self-defense, stating, "Sirhan was defending himself against those 50 Phantom jets Kennedy was sending to Israel." Meady wrote a 100-page book on the subject called Kennedy and Sirhan, Why? Later in prison, Sirhan claimed he was drunk. An interview with Sirhan in 1980 revealed new claims that a combination of liquor and anger over the anniversary of the 1967 Arab-Israeli War triggered his actions the night he assassinated RFK. "You must remember the circumstances of that night, June 5. That was when I was provoked," Sirhan says, recorded in a transcript of one of his interviews with Meady, later president of the New York-based American Arab Relations Committee. "That is when I initially went to observe the Jewish Zionist parade in celebration of the June 5, 1967, victory over the Arabs. That was the catalyst that triggered me on that night." Then Sirhan said, "In addition, there was the consumption of the liquor, and I want the public to understand that." At a June 30, 2003 hearing, Lawrence Teeter, in an attempt to get Sirhan a new trial, claimed that Sirhan had been hypnotized into firing at Kennedy and that he may have been using blanks. That Sirhan couldn't possibly have fired the fatal shot from where he was standing. That prosecutors blackmailed his defense attorney to throw the case and that police and government agencies whitewashed or bungled investigations. The motion was denied. Imprisonment. In 1971, Sirhan was housed in the Adjustment Center at San Quentin State Prison. He was subsequently transferred to the Correctional Training Facility in Soledad, California, where he was confined until 1992. From 1992 to 2009, he was confined at the California State Prison in Corcoran, California, and lived in COR's Protective Housing Unit until he was moved to a harsher lockdown at COR in 2003. In October 2009, ostensibly for his own safety, he was transferred to the Pleasant Valley State Prison in Coalinga, California, where he was housed in a cell by himself. He was subsequently moved back to Corcoran. On November 22, 2013, Sirhan was transferred from Corcoran to the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego County. The transfer occurred on the 50th anniversary of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, but a spokesman for the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation said that the transfer was a routine matter of housing allotments, and its timing was simply an unfortunate coincidence. Applications for parole. In a 1980 interview with M.T. Meady, Sirhan claimed his actions were fueled by liquor and anger. He then complained that the parole board was not taking these mitigating circumstances into account when they continually denied his parole. On May 10, 1982, Sirhan told the parole board, "I sincerely believe that if Robert Kennedy were alive today, I believe he would not countenance singling me out for this kind of treatment." I think he would be among the first to say that, however horrible the deed I committed 14 years ago was, that it should not be the cause for denying me equal treatment under the laws of this country. A parole hearing for Sirhan is now scheduled every 5 years. On March 2, 2011, after 42 years in prison, Sirhan's 14th parole hearing was held, with Sirhan represented by his current attorney, William Francis Pepper. At his parole hearing, Sirhan testified that he continues to have no memory of the assassination nor of any details of his 1969 trial and confession. Pepper also repeated the claim, which Sirhan's lawyers had previously stated, that Sirhan's mind was programmed, and then wiped by an unknown conspiracy behind the assassination, which is why Sirhan has no memory of the murder or of the aftermath. His parole was denied on the grounds that Sirhan still does not understand the full ramifications of his crime. See also: RFK, RFK Must Die, Bobby, Notable Inmates at California State Prison, Corcoran, Robert F. Kennedy's 1948 Visit to Palestine, List of people with reduplicated names, references. Further reading: Jansen, Godfrey, Why Robert Kennedy Was Killed, The Story of Two Victims, New York, Third Press, 1970. OCLCA 137100, Kaiser, Robert Blair, RFK Must Die. A History of the Robert Kennedy Assassination and Its Aftermath, New York, E.P. Dutton & Company, Incorporated 1970. ISBN 978-1-59020-070-4, Kaiser, Robert Blair, RFK Must Die. Chasing the Mystery of the Robert Kennedy Assassination, New York, Overlook Press, Peter Mayer Publishers, Incorporated 2008. ISBN 978-1-59020-124-4, Melanson, Philip H., Who Killed Robert Kennedy? Berkeley, California, Odonian, 1993. ISBN 978-1-878825-12-4, Turner, William V., and John G. Christian, The Assassination of Robert F. Kennedy, A Searching Look at the Conspiracy and Cover-Up 1968–1978, New York, Random House, 1978. ISBN 978-0-394-40273-4, Ayton, Mal, The Forgotten Terrorist Sirhan Sirhan and the Assassination of Robert F. Kennedy, Washington, D.C., Potomac Books, 2007. ISBN 978-1-59797-079-2, Meady, Muhammad Taqi, Kennedy and Sirhan, Y. New World Press, 1968. Edition, illustrated paperback, 100 pages. ISBN 978-0-911026-04-7, external links, Sirhan Sirhan at the Internet Movie Database, The Assassination of Robert F. Kennedy. By Joseph Geringer. Crime Library Biography. Interview with Sirhan's attorney Lawrence Teeter on KPFA 94.1/Guns and Butter Show, Statement of Sirhan Sirhan's former lawyer, Lawrence Teeter, released on the 30th anniversary of the murder of Robert Kennedy. The Robert Kennedy Assassination, Unraveling the Conspiracy Theories. Mel Ayton, Crime Magazine, May 8, 2005, Refugees. Los Angeles Daily Mirror story about Sirhan working as a delivery boy at a Pasadena health food store. June 23, 2007. The Lost Significance of Sirhan's Case. Organization of Arab Students. University of Southern California. Los Angeles, 1969. A brief excerpt from Sirhan's testimony that the editor claims was ignored by the press.